Today we will look at Hawaii's addition to the United States. Long before Hawaii had become a premier destination, Polynesians arrived in canoes and settled the islands as early as 400 CE. They spread out across the islands and divided into small communities with tribal chieftains. They had very little contact with the outside world until one Captain James Cook arrived in 1778. He was the first European to set foot in Hawaii, and he paved the way for many to follow. James Cook was killed the next year during a dispute over a longboat, but the damage was done. 5 years later, European weapons, strategies, and advisors such as John Young and David Isaac helped Kamehameha I conquer and unify the islands for the first time. His kingdom was prosperous and held economic and strategic value. Flocks of settlers came and began setting up sugar plantations. The labor for these plantations came from mainly Japanese and Chinese origin. Unfortunately, with these immigrants and prior European settlers came disease, and the native population dwindled to a fraction of its size over the next few centuries. Kamehameha died on May 8, 1819, and his son, Kamehameha II, took the throne. He is most well known for allowing the first company of Catholic missionaries into the country. These missionaries, to their credit, learned the language and made a textbook within 2 years. Kamehameha II died in 1824 after a visit to London where he was infected with measles. More Kamehamehas came and went, but Hawaii was gradually being westernized, while its native population shrank to a third. Under Kamehameha III, Hawaii went from an absolute monarchy to a constitutional monarchy and gained a Bill of Rights as well as a court system. Kamehameha V tried to promote the revival of traditional Hawaiian culture and resisted Western change. However, he died in 1866 without achieving any of his goals and without designating an heir. As Hawaii progressed further, the name of Kamehameha was discarded, and their next king was to be elected by the general legislature. Lunalilo was elected the new king of Hawaii, and he worked to make the kingdom more democratic before dying the following year. Finally, we approach our topic. Kalakaua was the last true king of Hawaii. He was known as a merry monarch as he gave no thought to expense, but all in all he was not a terrible king. Under his reign, the kingdom of Hawaii gave Pearl Harbor to the U.S., and in exchange got a free trade deal agreement that greatly benefited the sugar plantation owners. However, the sugar plantation owners owned 4/5 of all arable land in Hawaii, were rich, and were mostly American and European. These men, as well as other affiliated businessmen, formed the Hawaiian League in order to control Hawaii politically and economically. They were led by Loren Thurston, ironically the son of one of the first missionaries in the country, and they planned to transfer power from the monarch to the more settler-friendly legislator. These men were in control of the predominantly white, recently disbanded Honolulu Rifles, the only armed forces of Hawaii, and on July 6, 1887, they forced King Kalakaua to sign the Bayonet Constitution at gunpoint. This constitution turned the monarch into little more than a figurehead and restricted voting rights to the white upper class. The Hawaiian people were understandably upset, and tension was at an all-time high. Now enter Robert William Wilcox. Wilcox was a native Hawaiian officer and a veteran of the Italian military. He returned to Hawaii in 1887 only to find his beloved monarchy little more than a puppet. In coordination with Princess Liliuokalani and Charles B. Wilson, they plotted to overthrow King Kalakaua and replace him with Princess Liliuokalani. With over 300 men hidden around the royal palace, the plot was discovered in January 1888, less than 48 hours before it was scheduled to occur. However, no one was prosecuted and Wilcox was simply exiled. Interestingly enough, after this rebellion, Princess Liliuokalani was offered the throne several times by the missionary party, who were the political arm of the Hawaiian League and the rich planters. She refused because she feared she would be no more than a puppet. Life went on in Hawaii, but the king's health was failing and he died on January 20th, 1891 in San Francisco. Queen Liliuokalani took the throne and immediately began writing a constitution to restore the monarch's power. The constitution failed in the planter-dominated legislature, and the queen planned to use a royal fiat to enact the constitution. However, her royal cabinet dissuaded her from this idea, but the damage was done. 13 members of the Hawaiian League formed the Committee of Safety, concerned about their political and economical prospects. It was led by guess who? Our old pal Lorrin Thurston. The committee's goal was to overthrow the Queen and seek annexation by the U.S. due to a fear of Japanese imperialism. Charles B. Wilson, now Marshal under the Queen, received notification from detectives of an impending coup and asked permission to arrest the Committee of Safety from the Queen's cabinet. However, he was turned down and could do nothing as on January 16, 1893, the conspirators gathered with over 1,000 men, including many members of the Honolulu Rifles outside the royal palace. In a controversial act, John L. Stevens, the U.S. Minister to Hawaii, ordered U.S. troops to land on Hawaii to protect American interests. However, this simply gave more legitimacy to the rebellion. The next day, the conspirators took over a governmental building and set up a provisional government that was recognized by the U.S. Minister, John L. Stevens. The Queen decided to surrender to avoid bloodshed, but hoped the U.S. would reinstate the monarchy after review of this illegal takeover. And it looked like they might. Grover Cleveland, the newly elected president, demanded an investigation into the matter, and it was found that the overthrow was illegal. However, the reinstatement was stalled by pro-annexation members of Congress, and in 1897, William McKinley succeeded Cleveland as the United States president. A year later, he signed the New Lands Resolution, which annexed Hawaii on July 7, 1898. The formal ceremony was held at Iona Palace on August 12, 1898. Hawaii was now an American territory, but its journey to statehood had just begun. Over the next few decades, American influence on Hawaii grew, and so did its economy. Its production of both sugar and pineapples increased, and the Royalists gradually became a minority as more and more of the population became U.S. citizens. However, multiple proposals failed in Congress due to a fear of one ethnic group gaining too much power. Also, the large planters kept Hawaii from becoming a state for as long as possible due to economic benefits. But everything changed when World War II sealed Hawaii's importance as a military outpost, and a wave of patriotism swept the nation. Finally, Congress admitted Hawaii as a package deal with Alaska, and that's how we got our 50th state. Thanks for watching!